I wanted to share with you the words of, there was a group of 8-year-olds who were asked about to write about what is a grandmother, and I wanted to share some of their thoughts. One of them said, "A grandmother is a lady who has no little children of her own. She likes other people's." Another one wrote that a grandfather is a man grandmother. Grandmothers don't have to do anything except be there when we come to see them. It's kind of like ministers. We just work one hour a week. They are so old that they should not play hard or run, according to one 8-year-old. And when they take us for walks, they slow down past things like pretty leaves and caterpillars. They show us and talk to us about the colors of the flowers and always why we shouldn't step on cracks. They don't say hurry up, and I love this one. Usually grandmothers are fat, but not too fat to tie our shoes. Only out of the mouth of babes, huh? One said they wear glasses and funny underwear, and they can take their teeth and gums off. When they read to us, they don't skip or mind if it's the same story again. Everybody should try to have a grandmother, especially if you don't have TV. Because they're the only grown-ups who have time. Now, research tells us that the bond between grandmothers and their grandchildren is second, or grandparents and their grandchildren is second only in emotional power and influence to the relationship between a parent and their child. Now, grandparents, they have a powerful effect on the lives of their grandchildren if they're involved. They can be caretakers and storytellers and mentors and family historians and confidants. They can be negotiators between a child and their parents. All right. And a model for that child's own old age about how to be. Now, it is said when a child has a strong emotional tie to a grandparent, that child enjoys a kind of immunity. He or she does not have to perform for grandparents the way that they have to perform for parents and peers and teachers. I'm reminded of a song by Issei Barnwell from the wonderful music group Sweet Honey in the Rock. She, by the way, has been here to work with our choirs and to sing with us before. She's a member of the Church of All Souls, Unitarian Universalist Church of All Souls in Washington, D.C., where she started an a cappella gospel choir some years ago, which, as I understand it, eventually formed into the music group Sweet Honey in the Rock out of that church. One of her songs says, "We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage, fathers of time, daughters of dust, sons of great vision. We are sisters of mercy, brothers of love, lovers of life, and builders of nations. We are seekers of truth, keepers of faith, makers of peace, and the wisdom of ages. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are one." This song reminds me also of the words of the great African-American poet Nikki Giovanni, who said, "God can get busy elsewhere, I was told, which is why God invented mothers. Grandmothers are even better," she writes. "How do you go out into the world without a firm sense of those women watching you? Why would you want to be out there if not to continue their story? We have obligations. We are somebody's dream. Somebody, some woman, hundreds of years ago dreamed that one day somebody who looked like her would be able to do what? Eat in a restaurant, go to school, vote, not be cold, own herself, be paid for her labor. Who knows what she dreamed? But we do know that she dreamed. Had she not dreamed, we would not be here. We have no right to stop now. We have, in fact, an obligation to continue the dreams, to stand before history's docket and testify, I am here and here I will stand. Somebody, some woman hundreds of years ago dreamed that one day somebody who looked like her would do something. It's true of grandfathers too. The point is that these are people who had us in their dreams. They may have held us in their arms as little babies and looked into our eyes and dreamed. Or they may have never lived to see us, but yet they dreamed us into being. They sacrificed, gave of themselves so that we could be and do more than they did. And we too must dare to dream and to live so that those who will follow, those who may or may not carry our features, but who with our efforts will be able to do and be more than we are. The question is, in this fast-paced and material and virtual world of ours, do we care enough to dream for 100 years from now? Do we dare to live as the Native Americans, some Native Americans say, for the 7th generation? Now, for years we had a Cherokee councilman as a member of this church until he moved away, Taylor Keene. And he told me one day, he said, to live for the 7th generation meant to live for the 3 generations who preceded us and to carry their vision and their dreams and their values forward. To live for the current generation alive on earth at this time and to live for 3 generations beyond our lifetime. On this Mother's Day, as we celebrate the women who made our lives possible, let us remember the ones now gone and dare to dream and sacrifice for the ones of 100 years. We do so this year, 1 week after our church's oldest member died. Ruth Stout. She was 102 and a half. They tell me at a certain age you start celebrating half birthdays. She was born in 1909 when it was a different world. She lived through the major world wars, the invention of cars and television and civil rights and women's rights and so much more. Ruth joined All Souls in the 1940s when this church was still in downtown. Now, why would a bright, educated, deeply principled woman like Ruth join All Souls? There are a lot of reasons. But it is not inconsequential that by the time Ruth was coming of age in the 1920s, the Universalist Church of America had ordained over 80 women ministers, and the Unitarians 32. And all other denominations in America combined, a half dozen. When the Universalist Church of America formed in 1793, in their founding meeting at their first official statement of purpose, this religious body came out strongly against the institution of slavery. Ruth knew what kind of church she was joining, and she would join no other. It was a church that dared to dream for and act for the people 100 years hence. Ruth's husband, John, was the president of this church at its 50th anniversary, and her son, Danny, was president at its 75th. And she sat in the front row, front pew, right there, almost every Sunday up to 2 weeks ago. She also sat there for the memorial services of her husband and later her son, Danny. Her ashes tomorrow morning will be placed around this tree that we see out the window, this evergreen tree that stays evergreen and ever growing, alongside so many other beloved members of this church over so many decades who've placed their remains there as a reminder to all of us as we sit in these pews and we look out and see those trees, that even after our body is gone, our love and our spirit remains alive and evergreen to bless us and to surround us always. Now, 2 years ago when we signed the vision statement for this church, our Vision 2021, which is the 100th birthday of this church, nearly everyone, we did it on Sunday morning. People came up and we signed it on the chancel, you may recall, and nearly everybody in the church came forward. And after everyone had gone and sat down in their pew, Ruth came up. She stood up, 100 years old. She was helped by her daughter Janet and by me to get up the stairs. By this point, there was this incredible silence that came upon the congregation. It was so potent. It was like we could feel the spirit of our ancestors, that mighty cloud of witnesses who've gone before us, who always surround us with their love and their purpose and their spirit. And we felt it. And she stood up there, and as she prepared to sign, you have to know her, she was mentally sharp until the end. But she also had lost her sight some years before, and this beautiful piano player had arthritis, so she was limited in the movement of her hands. But as I passed her the pen, and as her daughter guided her century-old fingers on the page, I said to this congregation, we are signing a vision for our 100th year, and Ruth here knows what it means to reach 100. The only one in the congregation and in the room at that time. And everybody cheered and everybody stood on their feet in honor as she signed our vision, which hangs on the wall out in the foyer. You'll see it beautifully arranged by our member Diane Rusher. You'll see her picture there with her daughter signing, and you can see on there some of your pictures, and you'll see there's actually a little book that has a key. You can find your name where you signed it on this among the hundreds that are there. And if you weren't here, then you can we left room so you can add your name. So talk to us if you'd like to do that. But Ruth lived her grandmother's prayers and her grandfather's dreamings. She is now the breath of our ancestors. She is a mother of courage and a daughter of dust and a woman of great vision, a sister of mercy, a lover of life, a seeker of truth, a keeper of faith, and a maker of peace. Nobody was going to deny her rights or her dignity, and she stood up for the rights and the dignity of others. And do you know what her final words were to her children? She looked up from her deathbed. Her daughter was standing at the foot of the bed, and she said to her children, "You are more than I ever could have wished for." She has children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren in this church. They carry her features into the future, but more than that, they carry her commitments and her generosity and her dreams. We are all our grandparents' dreamings. We carry them and our own dreams. And so it's fitting that today on this Mother's Day, as on every Mother's Day in this church, we celebrate our flower communion. You may know that this was a ritual that was started by the founder of Unitarianism in Czechoslovakia back during the time of World War II. His name was Norbert Čapek. He was a minister who used his free pulpit to speak out against the Nazis. Soon he was discovered to be too dangerous to the SS. He was captured. He was put in a concentration camp where he was killed during medical experiments. He died a martyr. He dreamed of a world in which every man and woman, every girl and boy would be given the freedom and the dignity that they deserve. And he used his life to speak out against it and died a martyr for freedom. He lived and died so that all people could be free, and he lived unafraid. This is the tradition that we sit in. This is the tradition that calls us forward to continue and to keep doing this work in this world, because it takes real people with real hands and hearts to continue the march and the struggle for freedom and dignity for all human beings. That's where we are. That's why we're here. That's what this ceremony reminds us of, and that's what our gathering hopefully inspires us to do and to continue to do. We honor his memory in this ceremony that lifts up our unity and our diversity. Each flower that's been placed in this basket represents a unique person who is worthy of love and worthy of freedom. Like people, these flowers each are different colors and different shapes and different sizes. And when you leave today, you're asked to take someone else's flower home, representing and a reminder that for each child who's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who you are. We are one. Happy Mother's Day. And let us honor our mothers and our grandmothers by living to the 7th generation, so that whether they ever had the opportunity or not, we will know that we are more than they ever wished for. May Ruth Stout and Norbert Chopik rest in peace, knowing that the journey for equality and freedom has been successfully passed on into our hands. Into our hands it rests, and we will not let it go.